Shutter Island is one of those movies that needs to be watched twice. Its ending completely changes the meaning of what is happening and makes you look at all the events from a different angle. For the first time, we see the story of a federal marshal who arrives on the island to investigate the disappearance of a patient in a mental hospital. On the second viewing, we are presented with a completely different picture. There is no investigation and the federal marshal is actually a patient of this hospital, who considers himself a civil servant, and everyone else is playing along with him. The ending opens to us unexpectedly. The whole plot is turned upside down. But even before the finale, before the story begins to unfold, you can find many details that tell us that Teddy Daniels is actually mentally ill. If you watch the film more carefully, then from the very first minutes you can guess what is happening here, but we prefer to ignore the details, just as the main character ignores them. If you rewind this video 20 seconds back, you will see a scene in which a woman drinks water from a faceted glass without a glass. Have you noticed him? Most likely no. But this is a rather strange scene. She holds her hand as if she is drinking, but she does not have a glass in her hand. This scene is shown in the first person, that is, as Teddy sees it, and he does not notice the absence of the glass point blank. But if Teddy does not see him, then why are we mentally healthy people, too, did not pay attention to the empty hand? This is because we chose not to notice what we do not want to see. This is how mentally unhealthy people behave, and this is why the film is unique. It shows us unusual things and we perceive them normally, as if we ourselves were mentally ill. Teddy is acting very strange and does not notice what a real detective should notice. He meets his partner only upon arrival on the island.
You're my new partner. That's right. Not the best way to meet with my head halfway down the toilet.
And his partner raises even more questions. Having been in federal marshals for 4 years, he can barely cope with a holster. It is curious that Teddy paid attention to this, but did not attach any importance to it, as like we. Everyone recognizes him. Patients wave their hands, and the orderlies and doctors are clearly laughing at him. When Teddy asks the nurse about Dr. Sheen, she is confused.
So you were there, was there a doctor present?
Yes, Dr. Sheehan led the discussion.
She tries not to look at Lester Sheen, who is sitting next to her, but her eyes are constantly jumping, first at him, then at Cowley, then at Sheen again several times. Then the frame is transferred to the doctor, since they are talking about
Dr.
him.
Sheehan?
Yes, he was running the session.
Then Ted asks the patient about Sheen. She is also confused and looks at Lester, since they are talking about him again.
Tell me about him. What's he like?
He's, not hard on the eyes, as my mother would say.
Chuck smiles, but Teddy does not notice this when he asks Bridget about ladies. She is seriously scared.
No. Never heard of it.
As we learn towards the end of the film, Andrew Ladies could beat to death whoever calls him by his real name. Chuck calls Teddy Daniels a legendary person, and this makes a literal sense, because Teddy Daniels does not exist.
Doesn't exactly square with Teddy Daniels, the man, the legend, I'll give you that.
The head of the prison tells him that they know each other.
You don't know me.
Oh, but I do.
You don't
Oh,
know.
I know you. We've known each other for centuries.
Also striking is the behavior of the rank and file guards. They are clearly on the alert, but it does not seem that they are busy looking for Rachel Solando. When Teddy is not around, they completely relax, throw pebbles in water, chat among themselves, or just sit. They have no motivation to look for a non-existent person. Teddy is desperately looking for Andrew Ladies, although almost everything indicates that Teddy is Andrew Ladies. George Noyce calls him Ladies at the very beginning of the conversation. Teddy has a plaster on his face, and behind it is a small already healing injury. Perhaps he recently fell and cut an eyebrow, but it is more likely that he received a blow from George Noyce, with whom they had a fight the day before. The plaster is on the left on the forehead, but for the first time when we see Teddy, he looks in the mirror and the plaster we see on the right side. It was at this moment that he created the image of Andrew Ladies. Terrible psychopath arsonist, with a scar on his face starting above his right eyebrow. Teddy took his appearance, distorted it beyond recognition, highlighted all the noticeable features and invented Andrew Ladies.
Ugly-looking son of a bitch. Huge scar from his right temple down to his left lip. Eyes different colors. Not the type of face you'd forget.
The similarities between Andrew and Teddy are not only confirmed by the scar, they are both the only characters in the film to use matches.
Andrew latest lit the match. That caused the fire that killed my wife.
Matches appear only twice in the film at Andrew Ladies and Teddy in Section C. To emphasize the importance of matches, no one else touches them in the film. As the film progresses, we repeatedly see Dr. Cowley using a lighter while smoking a pipe, and Dr. Shin repeatedly lights Teddy's cigarette with a lighter. This allows you to emphasize the importance of matches.
Your match is about to go out.
Separately, consider the memories of Teddy, in particular the liberation of Dachau. These are real events during the Second World War. Teddy participated in the liberation of the concentration camp, and he has not the most pleasant memories from there. In particular, he remembers how he stood over a dying German officer, and did not allow him to quickly commit suicide, made him suffer from injuries. This memory pops into Teddy's head when, in Cowley's office, he hears music from a gramophone, a quartet for piano and strings in La minor. It was this composition that was played in the officer's office. Our attention is especially focused on this music.
Nice music. Who is that, Brahms? No. It's Mahler.
Gustav Mahler was an Austrian composer, but a Jewish origin, so in Nazi Germany his music was banned and she simply could not play in the officer's office. And this is not a blooper, this is done intentionally to show that this memory Teddy invented. The Gustav Mahler Quartet could not play in the German headquarters, but could play in the office of a German émigré, a psychiatrist, where Teddy heard this music. He really was in Dachau, but he did not go into the officer's office, and most importantly, he did not participate in the execution of prisoners of war. He embellished this episode from his memory, invented that he killed captured German soldiers in order to supplant the truth, that he had killed his wife, for which he could not forgive himself. A terrible memory is easiest to supplant other terrible memories. The liberation of the camp took place on April 29, 1945. It was warm, but in Teddy's false memories, frozen bodies everywhere. He needed a story no less cruel, thought out to the smallest detail. Let's go back to the scene with glass. Why didn't Teddy see the glass in the patient's hand? Chuck brings Bridget a glass of water. She takes it, drinks the water, puts the glass on the table, but when Teddy looks at it, he sees a woman with an empty hand. All because he hates water. In the beginning, he sails on a ship and suffers from a terrible seasickness. Then water drips on him from the ceiling, and because of it Teddy cannot sleep. Because of it he sees terrible nightmares and wakes up in sweat. This phobia has an explanation. His wife drowned their children. Our movie hero pulled the children out of the water. Water began to be associated with the most terrible thing. He hates water. Refuses to see it. His mind blocks it.
Pull yourself together, Teddy. Pull yourself together. It's just water.
Teddy could not come to terms with the fact that he lost children, with the fact that he killed his wife, so he deleted the water from his life. Fire replaced water. He imagined that his wife suffocated during the fire. In his opinion, this is a much milder death than at the hands of his own husband.
It was a smoke that got her, not the fire, so that's important.
He is drawn to fire, and all his hallucinations are somehow connected with fire and bright light. In his dreams Dolores turns to ash. But his hands are wet at the same time. There is fire all around. Every time Dolores appears, she is very brightly lit. This is his hallucination. He sees it everywhere, in empty rooms, in a dream, on the street, in memories. She often comes to him, and each time stands out from the environment. The fire in the film denotes a hallucination. In the same conditions he sees the fictional Andrew Ladies calmly sitting in a chair. The mysterious missing Rachel Solando is the same patient that our hero was looking for so much. He discovers her in a cave barefoot and very lightly dressed. Every time she is shown, the flames from the fire take up half the frame. This situation looks more than strange. Rachel tells him about the gruesome, inhuman, experiments on patients that are being secretly carried out on the island. She literally appears in the place where he expected to see her, says what he wants to hear, and then leaves. And even in the morning, before she chases him away, there is a sudden flash of light, hitting Teddy in the face. Everything suggests that she is a hallucination, and flashes of light like the ones when he sees his wife, ladies, confirm this. Fire fills the frame, covering Rachel's face, constantly reminding it presence. Another no less interesting conversation took place between Teddy and George Noyce. George directly states that this whole situation looks very funny. Ted is being led by the nose, but he does not notice.
The whole plan. This is a game. All of this is for you. You're not investigating anything. You're a fucking rat in a maze.
George behaves like a reasonable person, speaks fluently, and knows how to think critically. But as soon as darkness falls and a match lights up, George instantly turns into paranoid.
They are gonna take me to the lighthouse. They're gonna cut into my brain.
He begins to cry, complains that he will be taken to the lighthouse and his brain will be cut open. His speech changes from skeptical to pitying. Teddy seems to be talking to two people. One is calm and reasonable, and the other is shy and weak. This conversation is very easy to explain. The second part of Teddy's conversation has been imagined, and the moment of transition stands out sharply. He lit a match and the fire became a conduit for his hallucinations. Everything that George said after darkness fell, Ted's own invention. There are no experiments at the lighthouse. It is during the second part of the conversation that Dolores appears in the cell next to George, once again confirming that Teddy has begun to delirium. Fire is the complete opposite of water. That's why Teddy strives for it so much, seeks salvation in it, from what happened to him. He would have noticed it if he had stopped for a minute, and we missed it too, because we followed the same ideas that he was chasing. We're carried away by the story of Teddy Daniels, as well as Andrew. Our hero is crazy, the whole film. Everything around him just keeps telling him about it, but he doesn't pay attention to anything. We don't pay attention to anything. So, it turns out that the final twist of the entire film was in plain sight, but it was revealed to us a little earlier than to Edward Daniels himself, that is, to Andrew Ladies. The film makes us feel as crazy as Teddy. Even when we see all the pieces of the puzzle, we refuse to accept them, until they poke the truth in our faces. In the end, Andrew comes to his senses. For a while he recovers.
Which would be worse? To live as a monster? Or to die as a good man?
He cannot bear the feeling of guilt after the death of his wife, and he knows what it will eventually lead to. Lobotomy, the only way out for him, the only way not to turn into a monster again.